Good Tuesday evening and welcome to Under the Hood. It is January 24th. I'm Eli Karp, host here tonight, and alongside me today, a little bit of a different crew. We do have Rock the Barn, who is with us virtually every week, our Iron Man, and we have our two Atlantans, Abe and Jake. Obviously, very timely coming from Atlanta as their Falcons have made it to Super Bowl 51. Not something that many people thought would happen. They were actually, at the beginning of the season, 100-1 odds at the sportsbook in Las Vegas to make the Super Bowl. There were more bets placed on the Cleveland Browns making the Super Bowl than the Atlanta Falcons making the Super Bowl. So just goes to show you don't know. At the beginning of this year when Julia was saying that Matt Ryan could be a fantasy quarterback sleeper, I said, no, I don't like Matt Ryan. No, the Falcons aren't going anywhere. We all said that the Carolina Panthers would run away with the NFC South. That clearly didn't happen. Here we are. Falcons had a couple rough spots during the season where we thought they might teeter and turn over, but they managed to keep it together. Thus far, the offense has looked unstoppable in the playoffs, albeit 2 games, but should be, in my opinion, a pretty entertaining Super Bowl, and hopefully it doesn't get out of hand too early like it did the last 2 conference championship games. We've had 10 playoff games, 8 blowouts. This is unacceptable. We are due for a very entertaining Super Bowl. Abe Glasser, open up.
I totally agree that these playoffs have been very boring, and a blowout is something that just shouldn't happen. And the Atlanta Falcons, I love watching them. It is a little bit of a bummer to watch them when they are blowing out. It's not a very interesting game. But I think against the Patriots, against 2 powerful offenses, and while I might say that Atlanta defense is playing very well and the Patriots defense is playing very well, I think it'll be a really good matchup, a very close game.
All right, and a quick reminder that if you're watching us, please do submit your questions to the comments box. We are more than happy to answer them and engage in a little bit of some fan dialogue. Rock the Barn, your thoughts on this matchup?
It should be a good offensive matchup, but I said that last week about the Packers and Falcons game, and it was really one-sided, and Aaron Rodgers really couldn't get anything going. So, who
So
knows?
you don't know anything.
Yeah, maybe it will be a defensive matchup, but as of now, I think it's going to be a really star-studded offense.
Yeah, for that case, either do I. I said both would be fantastic games and that the Packers would win in a shootout. And I also said that New England would win by 2 points. So I think we can all agree that we whiffed on this past weekend's games. Jake Bush, let's hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the matchup. I think that the 2 best teams coming out of each league really did make the Super Bowl. I think the Cowboys, although they were throughout the season dominant, the Falcons just can't overlook that offense. 6th highest scoring in history. Matt Ryan averaging a stellar 9.26 yards per pass in the regular season, and now in the playoffs, almost 10 yards, 9.7 is about his average. But I think that one thing that we really have to watch out for is going to be the running back matchup. Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, over 2,000 all-purpose yards this season is unbelievable, otherworldly almost. And then looking on the other side, people forget that complimenting Brady is an older but still effective LeGarrette Blount, who did score, was a high scorer this season. He was consistently a fantasy performer. And I think that you have to realize that he's going to be pounding the ball the entire game. So I'm really excited for that running back matchup, considering that these 2 defenses, although playing well recently, may have trouble stopping that attack.
Yeah, as great as both these 2 quarterbacks are, and everyone's focusing on the quarterback matchups, both teams have very good 1-2 punches in the backfield, as well as very solid offensive lines. I've said it multiple times lately. I believe that Freeman and Coleman are the best 1-2 punch in the league. And then on the other side, you've got LeGarrette Blount, who's had a career season. I think he almost had maybe 16 touchdowns, something like that. No? Did he not?
Yeah, it was something like that. I mean, he was.
Oh, yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then you also have
18
Dion Lewis, who came back, and he's a big playmaker.
Right.
Yeah, he's a little careless with the ball sometimes, but he's a playmaker. And let's not forget, this Patriots offensive line, which has been maligned the last couple of years, this is one of the best lines that they've had in the last 5 or 6 years. One that can protect Tom Brady, one that can really run block well. So Patriots are multidimensional, and it's not like they only have Julian Edelman out there and Martellus Bennett, who, by the way, is playing with bone chips and still manages to make a difference. Chris Hogan which when they picked him up this at the beginning of the year, I thought he would be pretty valuable because honestly, they could pick any of the four of us up off the street and we could go for 700 yards and about 8 touchdowns a year playing in the Patriots system. But he's good. Amendola's got playing well, and Malcolm Mitchell, although he went out for the year, he was playing very well out of Georgia. So they managed to plug people in very well. Patriots offense, multidimensional, hard to stop. Both offenses, for that matter, multidimensional, hard to stop. But one thing about defending the Falcons offense that I thought that Green Bay did poorly, and I know Green Bay was down a bunch of bodies. Their defense was pretty bad to begin with, but they gave the Falcons playmakers way too much room when it came to the passing game. They played way off Julio Jones, way off Taylor Gabriel, way off Mohamed Sanu. That's just not how you can play this Falcons defense. They're very fast. They're very skilled. They're going to get the ball out quickly sometimes when they see the opportunity, and then you're going to be beat. So I think the way the Patriots have to do this is guard them close to the line of scrimmage at the beginning of the play, maybe play a little more man-to-man coverage. I don't think that's as big of an issue because they stop the run very well. You got Alan Branch up there who plugs the middle, and you've got the linebackers you can bring in and out, Ninkovich and such. So I think that's what the Patriots have to do if they want to contain this high-powered 34-point-a-game scoring Falcon offense. Any other thoughts on how you stop the Falcon offense? Jake.
I mean, thinking back on it, the most effective, probably defensive display this season against the Falcons, and there were very few because the Falcons were stellar pretty much throughout. I think that one example you can look at is
the Eagles.
They were pretty good against Julio. They limited him, and he was I think he was injured that game. And Matt Ryan just couldn't really get anything going. And I think one of the things about the Eagles is that they're a physical defense, and they've always been a physical defense in whatever system they've worked with. I think the Patriots, with Butler now challenging Julio, are going to really have to be physical from the start at the line of scrimmage and all the way down. But one thing that you did say about playing them close, I think that with the speed of the Falcons, especially talking about Taylor Gabriel and Julio Jones specifically, you're going to have to find a way to limit them to short yardage, which in the Falcons offense, we're talking 6 or 7 yards. So it's not going to be like they're going to get them at the line of scrimmage and there's going to be nothing happening. I think Matt Ryan's going to find a way because the way he's playing and the way Julio's playing, that 73-yard catch reminiscent of the 75-yard score against the Panthers earlier in the season. He's just physical, fast, and arguably playing like the best receiver in the game.
Yeah, you heard Troy Aikman say that for his money, Julio Jones is the best receiver in the game. Surprising that he didn't say that Dez Bryant was the best receiver in the game. But hey, I guess that really says something about what Troy Aikman thinks of Julio Jones. Just one interesting stat, I think, similar to the white jersey stat that the Falcons chose. They elected to wear their home reds, leaving the Patriots to wear their whites, their road whites. That 11 out of the last 12 years, I believe, the white jersey wearing team has won the Super Bowl. So just something to keep in mind there. And another one of those type stats is that I forget how many times, but out of the when the number one scoring offense meets the number one scoring defense in the Super Bowl, I think every time but one in the last handful of Super Bowls, it has been the number one scoring defense, which has won the Super Bowl. Case in point, the Denver Broncos versus the Seattle Seahawks. Denver Broncos with a historic offense that nobody thought could be stopped, and yet everything goes messy from the first snap over Peyton Manning's head in Super Bowl 48. So that's fresh in my mind, something to keep in mind for this great offense against an overlooked defense that will give up yards but tightens up. And this game could be decided very well in the red zone, which who gives up touchdowns versus who gives up a field goal or two compared to that, which I think is very possible. Any other thoughts on matchups to watch for, any certain things? I think that the Falcons should take their saxophonist who plays the national anthem and have him play the national anthem at the Super Bowl. He's pretty good.
Agreed.
Definitely.
Anything else? Rock the barn, Abe?
I think something that has been mentioned is Alex Mack will not be practicing most of this week, and he is the star-studded Pro Bowl center for the Falcons. And they're not playing him during practice just as a precautionary measure, but I think that is something to look forward to look at because 1 week of practice is a lot, and they're doing a lot of preparation, and not having your star center playing, that's something that could have a huge impact on protecting Matt Ryan and protecting Devontae Freeman and all backfield.
Agreed. But, worst comes to worst, Ben Garland has to start. And everybody loves Ben Garland, who plays offensive line and the defensive line, who actually got the safety of Russell Wilson back in the divisional round. So that was fun to watch. Yeah, that's something to watch. Luckily, 2 weeks to prepare for this. Also, Julio will probably get plenty of rest. Every game he seems to come in, get nicked up, and during the game he seems to get even more nicked up and then catch another touchdown. So it's almost like he's superhuman to a point, but he'll probably be listed somewhat on the injury report in the early going. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Same with Bennett. Yes, Jake.
And then one more thing is I think the stadium could play a very big role too. The Falcons, obviously comfortable in the Dome this year and on the road. They really outperformed everywhere, but specifically in the Dome, I think one thing to watch for would be if it comes down to a kicking game, Matt Bryant in climate-controlled stadiums is stellar. Aside from the missed extra point, he has been having another astonishing year kicking, which is often overlooked as well, with the likes of Gostkowski and Vinatieri dominating the conversation for the greats of kicking. But I really think the stadium could play a part too. The Falcons are comfortable indoors. Houston, obviously, NRG is going to be a welcoming environment. Being in the South, we'll probably see a good bit of Falcons fans out there. So I'm just excited to kind of see how each team adapts to their surroundings and prepares for that. And going back to Alex Mack too, not too concerned about him, but just to make sure that he gets healthy quickly. Not practicing, obviously. So
yeah, I agree. Matt Bryant having probably the best year of his career, and he's in his mid-40s at this point.
Right.
So. He's had a great year. And Stephen Gostkowski, very good kicker, but I have to say, I have seen some more missed field goals from him this year than usual. Just something to keep an eye on. I've been following this guy for a while. I like my kickers just as much as the next guy, and he's just missed a few more than he did last year. So something you got to keep in mind, and especially that can stem from the missed extra point in the AFC Championship game against Denver last year, which eventually made them go for the 2-point and contribute to the loss. So something to keep in mind with that. And the Falcons, till we talk about that Eagles defense, which really was able to shut them down, that came on the road in Philly, outdoors with the elements. So yes, definitely a Dome. Falcons should not be affected by any of those type of elements. They're not playing outside or anything. Any final thoughts on Super Bowl 51? Abe?
The Patriots have so much more experience than the Falcons when it comes to Super Bowls. Tom Brady, this is his 5th Super Bowl, his 7th Super Bowl.
He been to the Super Bowl in 47% of his years played. That is unbelievable. To think about that, you make the Super Bowl 47% of the seasons you've played in the NFL. I'm amazed by that. Abe, go ahead.
Yeah, not a lot of players get that opportunity, and only 6 players on the Falcons have actually been to a Super Bowl, and then also Dan Quinn and some of the coaches have. But it's like Bill Belichick and the Patriots, and specifically Tom Brady, have had so much more experience. I'm not really sure how that'll fare in the Super Bowl, but I believe it will be a factor.
Yeah, Tom Brady has won every single Super Bowl that he does not play against Eli Manning. So maybe he'll finish the drive for 5 and really cement his legacy as the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Bill Belichick's such a good game planner. Everyone talks about he's such a great coach, but really the description that has to go into it is game planner, knowing how to take away what you do best. And obviously the Falcons throw the ball great, but I think that the Patriots are going to focus on being able to contain the run first, because then that will make the Falcons one-dimensional. And obviously that's a very, middle-of-the-road statement. Everyone says you got to stop the run first. But with this Falcons team, it is very true, I believe. Looks like Abe is still there. Just had a brief technical difficulty. So those are my 2 cents on Super Bowl 51. I will make my pick next week just to keep anyone who's watching in suspense and give them a reason to watch next week. Abe and Jake, is it safe to say that you guys are rooting for the hometown team? Or not rooting, picking the hometown team? In your gut, do you really think they're going to win?
If I may, My reluctance to pick is that I haven't really picked them this season. You know, I stick with my team in that I try to stay as optimistic as possible without really cementing or should I say determining who I want or who I'm going to pick to get the game. But against the Packers, my confidence before was pretty high. I thought that they had a good shot of pulling it out, and I don't think this should be any different. I mean, the Patriots are obviously a healthier team, and there's a lot of experience there, but no Gronk, that's a huge factor. The Falcons are arguably, not really arguably, the hottest team right now, 6 straight wins, including the postseason, and 2 pretty impressive wins over Seahawks and Packers teams that throughout the season were pretty highly touted. So no, I'm confident. I'm not going to make any pick. Vegas obviously has the 3-point underdog for the Falcons there, but no, I'm gonna stick and say I have confidence in my team, but it's a toss up right now.
All right, Abe, anything different?
I think in years past and seasons past, I've always wanted to say, oh, the Falcons are going to go all the way. But in my heart, I knew they wouldn't. But at this point in the season, I think they actually can. I predicted a Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl from the beginning of the playoffs. And I think a huge factor is that people say, yes, the Patriots defense is the highest scoring. But if you look at like who they've faced, what QBs they faced, it was Carson Palmer week 1, the Dolphins, Osweiler, the Browns. The only real threat that they've faced is Russell Wilson, who has not really been playing at the extremely elite level this year, and Big Ben. So I think they have not really been playing against an elite quarterback as Matt Ryan is. And so that'll be something to watch. That'll be something to watch for, and something that I think will give the Falcons the edge and give them the win in the Super Bowl. All
right, that really is the one, I guess, knock on this Patriots defense is that they haven't really been tested by a high-powered offense. What better way to be tested than by the highest-powered offense in the NFL this season? All right, that's it for our Super Bowl 51 talk this week. Let's go to something we haven't really touched on under the hood much yet, and that is college basketball. Believe it or not, it's almost the end. It is. We're nearing the end of January. March isn't that far away. Selection Sunday is just 7 Sundays away. Got to start making those brackets. Again, that's 7 weeks away, but got to start kind of finding your teams that you're very interested in. Just run down a couple of teams here that are in the AP Top 25. Obviously, Baylor's not too much of a surprise. Gonzaga is back at the top. They are ranked number 3 in the AP poll this week. Florida State, not a team you associate with college basketball, but rather on the gridiron. They are in the top 10. I believe they're number 9. They have a ton of talent. They came out of nowhere, but apparently all the pundits are saying that they've been seeing this for a while. Duke is trending down. They have 5 losses this season. Coach K still out with back surgery. Things are just not meshing with them with Grayson Allen and the rest of their stars. Just not happening. Big Ten, not having a great year. Indiana, top 10, which started out very nicely with the win over Kansas. They've gone absolutely downhill. They're out of the top 25. I believe there are 3 Big Ten teams in the top 25 now. You have Maryland, it's at 22, I believe. Wisconsin enjoying a 15-spot year. And then Purdue, also projected to have a decent year. They're at 20. I think they can get a little bit up there. But Big Ten play gets very interesting. But another team from the Big Ten to keep an eye on, Northwestern, one of the few teams never to make the NCAA tournament. A lot of people said this could be their year. They could make it in. And right now they received, even though they didn't make it into the AP Top 25 this week, they received 33 votes. So they're getting close. This could be the year for the Wildcats. Just to make it into the Big Dance, I think that would be enough for them. Big East, they're having a great year thus far. Villanova, obviously, after winning it crazily last year, they're at number 1. Butler is back, Creighton is back, and Xavier is back. So the Big East is outdoing the Big Ten right now. And Middle Tennessee State, a team that I love to hate because they really busted my bracket and probably a lot of other people's brackets last year with beating Michigan State, 15 seed over 2 in the first round last year. They also received a vote or 2 to get into the AP Top 25, so maybe they're actually a quality team this year that doesn't just come up with 1 win. SEC basketball in your country, guys. Not a huge thing besides Kentucky, Florida, and actually South Carolina is putting together a good year. They're ranked, but otherwise pretty sleepy down there, isn't it?
Well, I mean, sleepy until you talk about Kentucky. Always a contender, always at the top. I don't think that SEC basketball would be anything without Kentucky. That's for sure. But Kentucky clearly looking to make a run. Florida also in the top 25, not necessarily being called a contender, but I think they have a shot of going somewhere in the tournament. So no, SEC basketball. It's not a mainstay here, but it certainly is dominated by the two powerhouses we usually consider to be Kentucky and Florida. So you never know what could happen. Texas A&M in past years has been good, but they kind of have fallen off a bit. I think the most intriguing still remains Villanova. Josh Hart is just spectacular. They've lost the game, and going into the tournament, I think they're going to have a lot of momentum. So they're my favorite. But no, SEC basketball, Kentucky is always a contender. You can argue with me on that, but I'm going to stick by that and say that they know what they're doing down there, Calipari and all of them.
Yeah, Big 12 actually an interesting conference this year as well. Typically, it's been Big 12 and ACC that have been the kings of college basketball. ACC is still very strong this year, even though Virginia's not in the top 10. They're at 12. They're not quite as good as they have been. They enjoyed their 2 or 3 year stretch with a lot of the same players, and then you had a couple that graduated last year. So they're still going to play good defense and all. UNC, obviously the look of a deep run still yet again, even though they lost Marcus Page and maybe another or two. They're looking fine. Florida State, obviously. Duke, interesting to see what happens with them. Syracuse has been pretty trashy this year, I have to say. Otherwise, yeah, ACC's fine. Big 12, Oklahoma. Not Oklahoma because Buddy Hield, Isaiah Cousins, Ryan Spangler left. So that was virtually their entire team last year, and it's showing. They're young, they're talented, but they're probably not going to make the tournament this year unless they put together a really great second half. They have a losing record right now. Kansas, even though they don't make as many headlines as we saw from the last year, still Deontay Graham, still Frank Mason. They're at number 2 in the country right now. They're playing at West Virginia, a team that was ranked just 7th 2 weeks ago, or a week ago. They've suffered a couple bad losses now, and they're at 18 now. They've always been a very, iffy team. They ranked 3rd last year. I had them going to the Final Four in one of my brackets, but they lost to Stephen F. Austin. They're very momentum based, so they can either be great or they can struggle. Just very interesting situation there. Iowa State, they lost more of their scores. They're not in the top 25, but they could get in there. Maybe a borderline, maybe 7-8 kind of seed, but probably dangerous enough. They just don't play defense. Baylor, Big 12. Yeah, that's and the Pac-12 actually making a very interesting run out there with UCLA beat Kentucky, but they've kind of fallen off a little bit. And Arizona, after getting Alonzo Trier back, they beat UCLA, and they're actually ranked 7th ahead of 8 UCLA. So it should be a very interesting Pac-12 duel. Any thoughts on teams I may not be listing? Or Akbar, yeah, what do you have?
Notre Dame is still up there. They didn't really lose, I think, that many players last year.
Yeah, it was really the year before.
The year before last year, they lost a couple guys with Jaron Grant being one of them. I think he plays for the Bulls now. But they're number 14 right now, I think, with 4 losses or 3 losses. And I feel that they could go pretty far this year.
Yeah, but they're a team that can shoot. They've always been a shooting team. They usually can defend pretty well. And Mike Brey is a really good coach. He uses whatever he has, even when he goes into underdog situations. They nearly upset Kentucky when Kentucky was going for the undefeated year 2 years ago. So Notre Dame, got to watch out. There's another ACC team that I was forgetting. Even though they're in Big Ten country, they are the ACC. Louisville also the ACC. Louisville's having a pretty good year. Again, Louisville struggles with the scoring, but Rick Pitino, defense, I think they'll be pretty formidable come March. Yeah, what else do you want to add?
You kind of brought up UCLA earlier, and I think UCLA probably won't win this year, but they are a young team, and they're definitely on the rise. I feel within the next 4 or 5 years, they're definitely going to be a team in that top 5 pretty much all the time, looking for a big win.
Okay, they're representing the Pac-12 out there in Southern Cal. Abe, anything to add?
I'm not a huge college basketball fan, but I do know a little bit about Arizona and how they're playing recently. They've been playing pretty well, young team, and I think they can make a run in the tournament.
Just one of the many Wildcats in college sports, because that's not an overused mascot. No, none at all. Anything else, Dan, on college basketball?
Yeah,
Yes.
real quick, I wanted to mention Oregon. I think people overlook Oregon too with the dominance of UCLA and Arizona. Oregon had a tough start to the season, I remember. I do think they lost to Georgetown, if I'm not mistaken. Georgetown team that's been struggling recently and obviously has not really been in the talk for contenders in recent college basketball years. So I think that Oregon's a team that can make a run. Last year they had a good tournament. I don't think that we can talk about the Pac-12 without referencing them because they are going to be a contender for UCLA as well as Arizona come March.
Yeah, they really, last year they were the forgotten one seed, if you will. But Dylan Brooks, I believe he's a senior now. He's their star, their go-to, one of the best players in the nation, even though I think he might have been injured at the beginning of the season. They've tried to right the ship. And who knows, they may be getting there. So you got 3 formidable teams in the Pac-12. And, it should be a really – once football season ends, I think the focus really will shift to college basketball more just because March is coming and the NBA is honestly just pretty boring right now. It really is. Rock Barn?
I think a team that's even though they're low in the bracket right now, I still think they're getting way too much credit. It's Maryland. Maryland is around, I think, like 18th.
They're at 22.
22? All right, yeah. Well, I think they could be like 24, 25, maybe even out. Because even though they're 17-2, their 2 losses are to Nebraska and Pitt, and their schedule has not been hard whatsoever. I feel going into the tournament, if they do end up making it, they will not get past the second round. They're a decent team, and I think they definitely probably deserve to be in it. But, I mean, looking at their schedule and the games to come, they really don't have that many hard games besides Wisconsin, maybe Michigan State and Iowa. Those are pretty much their only hard games of the season.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. Maryland, Melo Trimble's still there, but they're really not getting any attention. They lost, I believe they lost Diamond Stone last year, and they're kind of in like a mini rebuilding phase before Trimble leaves again. But it's not as easy to gauge this Maryland team because the Big Ten isn't as strong as it has been in the last couple of years. So obviously their tests will come with Purdue and Wisconsin. And those are the only ranked teams from the Big Ten aside from them at the moment. So it's much harder to really gauge just how good they are. Whereas last year they were a pretty good team, fell off at the end, and that was eventually their downfall. But yeah, they're really being a team that's overlooked and not as high aspirations as last year. Any final points before we wrap this up? All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me. Hope you enjoyed this. And for everyone watching, thank you. Have a good night.